I'm 102 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will terrify you. Everything you think you know about aging, about family, about who will be there for you at the end, it's all completely wrong. And the people who should be warning you, your parents, your friends, society, they're either lying to protect themselves or they're too afraid to face the truth. You see, I've spent the last 58 years living in nursing homes. 58 years. That's longer than most people's entire careers, longer than most marriages. And what I've learned in these silent hallways, watching thousands of people take their final breaths, would shatter every assumption you have about how your life will end. But before I tell you what really happens when you get old, I need you to understand something. I'm not making this video for sympathy. I'm making this because I'm running out of time, and there are truths you need to hear while you still have the chance to do something about it. Not for me. I've made my peace. For you. At 44 years old, I had what doctors called a cerebrovascular accident. That's a fancy medical term for a massive stroke. The wooden spoon fell from my hand. I tried to call out, but the words wouldn't come. Just strange sounds. The next thing I remember is waking up 3 days later in a hospital bed, unable to move my right arm or leg, unable to speak clearly. The neurologist said I'd need extensive rehabilitation. What he didn't say, what nobody says, is that rehabilitation is just another word for warehousing. Within 6 weeks, I was transferred to a nursing home for temporary recovery. I've been in one ever since. 58 years of temporary. Here's the biggest lie you're telling yourself right now. My family will take care of me. My kids love me. They'd never put me in a home. I'm building these relationships now, so I'll be surrounded by love when I'm old. Let me save you 60 years of heartbreak with one brutal truth. They won't. They don't. They can't. You know why? Because life gets in the way. Your children will have their own children, their own careers, their own problems, their own lives that don't include changing your diapers or watching you forget their names. When I first arrived at the nursing home, I was furious. My daughter promised she'd visit every week. Every week turned into every month. Every month turned into holidays. Then just Christmas, then just her birthday, then just phone calls, then nothing. She's not a bad person. She's just busy. That's what she tells herself. That's what they all tell themselves. I had a roommate named Dorothy. Died 7 years ago at 96. She had 4 children. 4. You know how many came to see her in her last 5 years? None. Not because they hated her. Because they had busy lives. One lived in California, too far to visit. One had teenagers to worry about. One was dealing with her own health issues. One just stopped calling. Dorothy would sit by that window every Sunday, watching the parking lot, waiting for cars that never came. She'd dress up, put on lipstick, wait. By 4 o'clock, she'd take off the lipstick and go to bed. Every single Sunday. At her funeral, they all cried. They said beautiful things. Her daughter gave a touching eulogy about what a wonderful mother she was. I wanted to scream. Where were you? Where were all of you when she was alive and waiting? You think you're different. You think your relationships are stronger. You think you'll be the exception. You won't. I've watched this pattern repeat itself thousands of times in 58 years. The devoted children become occasional visitors, become phone callers, become strangers. Not because they're evil, because you become inconvenient, because watching you deteriorate is painful, because they have to protect their own mental health, because life is for the living, not the dying. Here's what nobody tells you when you're young and healthy and full of plans. Your body will betray you. Not slowly, suddenly. One day you're cooking dinner, and the next day you're in diapers. One day you're independent, and the next day you can't remember your own address. One day you're the parent, and the next day you're the burden. I spent the first 44 years of my life building what I thought mattered. A marriage, a home, a reputation in my community, friendships. And you know what? None of it protected me. When I had that stroke, everything I built vanished. My husband, sweet man, loved me dearly. He visited for 3 years. Then he met someone else. Someone who could still have conversations. Someone who wasn't broken. He's been dead now for 30 years. I outlived him by 3 decades. Alone. Let me tell you about the midnight shift. That's when the real truth of nursing homes comes out. During the day, we put on our best faces. We smile for the aides. We participate in bingo and music therapy. We pretend we're content. But at night, when the halls go dark and the doors close, that's when you hear it. The crying. The calling out for mothers who've been dead for 50 years. The confusion. The fear. The loneliness so deep it has a sound. I've heard that sound for 58 years. You can't unhear it. The things you're chasing right now, the career success, the bigger house, the nicer car, the impressive title, they mean nothing here. I've lived alongside former doctors, lawyers, executives, teachers, artists. You know what they all have in common at the end? Regret. Not about what they didn't achieve, about who they didn't love enough, about the time they didn't spend, about the words they didn't say. I had a friend here named Margaret who died last year at 98. Former college professor, published 3 books, won awards. You know what she talked about in her final weeks? Not her accomplishments. She talked about her grandson, the one she barely knew because she was always too busy writing. He came to her funeral, looked uncomfortable the whole time, left before the reception ended. You're making the same mistakes right now. You're prioritizing work over presence. You're choosing convenience over connection. You're telling yourself you'll make time later to really bond with your parents, your siblings, your friends. Later. That magic word that destroys lives. Later never comes. Or it comes too late. Your parents will get old. They'll need you. And you'll have to choose between your life and their decline. And most of you, not all, but most, will choose your life. Because that's what humans do. We're wired for self-preservation, not sacrifice. After my stroke, my perspective changed. Obviously. But here's what really changed. I started noticing patterns. Every new resident arrives with promises. Family members swear they'll visit constantly. They set up elaborate schedules. They bring photo albums and familiar items. They cry and hug and promise to come back soon. In 90% of cases, the visits drop off within 6 months. Not because they stop caring. Because watching someone deteriorate is trauma. Because nursing homes smell like death and disinfectant. Because it's depressing. Because life is easier when you don't confront what's coming for all of us. What matters is painfully simple. Relationships while you can still build them. Memories while you can still make them. Love while you can still express it. Time while you have it. I know you're thinking, but I need to work. I have responsibilities. I have bills. And yes, you do. I'm not saying abandon your life. I'm saying stop using busyness as an excuse for absence. Stop telling yourself you'll connect deeply someday when things calm down. Things never calm down. The chaos just changes forms. Here's a question that should keep you awake tonight. When you're old and declining and living in a place like this, and odds are you will be, who will visit you? Really visit you. Not out of obligation, but out of love. Not once, but consistently. Not for months, but for years. If you can't answer that question confidently right now, you need to change something, because the relationships you're building today, or failing to build, will determine whether you die surrounded or alone. I've seen both. Trust me, you want to avoid the second one. I'm 102 years old. I've been in institutional care since I was 44. That's 58 years of watching. 58 years of learning what actually matters. And I'm telling you, you're getting it wrong. You're investing in the wrong things. You're building the wrong life. You're making promises to yourself about later that you won't keep. Your body will fail. Your mind might fail. Your independence will disappear. And when that happens, the only thing that will matter is whether you built real, deep, unshakable connections with other humans. Not professional networks. Not social media followers. Not work relationships. Real love, real presence, real time invested. I had a stroke at 44. I thought my life was ending. In a way, it did. But you know what? I've had 58 years to think, to watch, to learn, to see what actually matters. And the irony is devastating. Most people spend their whole lives working toward a retirement they'll barely enjoy, building security they'll lose, and neglecting relationships they'll desperately need. The people who die peacefully here are the ones who get regular visitors. Not because visitors make the physical pain less, but because love makes existence bearable. The ones who die hard, scared, confused, calling out for people who aren't coming, those are the ones who sacrifice relationships for everything else. You have a choice, right now, today. Keep living the way you're living, putting career first, putting comfort first, telling yourself you'll strengthen relationships later, assuming your family will rally around you when you need them. Or wake up. Realize that the body you're walking around in will betray you, that the independence you take for granted will vanish, that the people you're neglecting now won't be there later. And start living like the end is coming. Because it is. Stop assuming you'll die quickly. Stop assuming you'll stay healthy until the end. Stop assuming your family will sacrifice their lives for yours. Start calling your parents. Not texting, calling. Start visiting your grandparents while they're still alive. Start building relationships that can survive your decline. Start being the person you'd want visiting you in 50 years. And most importantly, start now, not next week. Not after this project. Not when things settle down, now. Because I promise you, one day you'll be in a place like this. And on that day, you'll desperately wish you'd made different choices. You'll wish you'd loved harder, visited more, said the things, made the time, built the connections. I'm 102. If I'm lucky, 1 or 2 more years. Probably less. And I'm at peace with that. Because I've had 58 years to make peace with what I lost, and who I became and what really matters. These haven't been happy years, but they've been educational. I've learned more about human nature in this nursing home than I learned in my first 44 years of living. Here's the final irony that should wake you up. The people who visit me now aren't family. I have no family left. The people who visit me are volunteers who never met me before my 90s, strangers who became friends because I finally learned too late how to build real connections, how to be vulnerable, how to accept love. I learned it 50 years too late. You still have time. Use it. Your tomorrow self, the one in the nursing home bed, waiting for visitors who won't come, is begging you to make different choices. Don't spend 60 years figuring this out. Learn from my 5 decades of watching humanity at its most vulnerable. Build real relationships now. Show up for people now. Love deeply now. Stop waiting for someday. Someday is a lie. Someday is what people say when they mean never. They're still waiting, still believing, still hoping that someday will finally come. It won't. The people you're counting on are counting on you to understand that they have lives to live, and your decline doesn't fit into those lives. Not because they're cruel, because watching someone fade away is one of the hardest things a human being can do. Here's what I see from this wheelchair, from this room that smells like antiseptic and old age. I see the same movie playing out year after year. Someone arrives, someone fades, someone dies, sometimes with people holding their hand, usually alone. And the difference between those two endings isn't luck. It's choices. Choices made decades earlier. Choices about how to spend time, who to prioritize, what actually matters. You think you're investing in your future by working those extra hours. You're not. You're stealing from your future self. The self who will be sitting in a place like this, staring at walls, remembering all the moments you chose work over presence. Someday you'll call your mother more often. Someday you'll visit your old friend. Someday you'll take that trip with your father. Someday you'll tell people how much they mean to you. But someday never arrives, does it? There's always another deadline, another obligation, another reason to wait. And then one day, the person you were planning to call is gone. The trip you were planning to take becomes impossible. The words you were going to say go unspoken forever. I've watched this happen over and over. New residents arrive here full of bitterness. My son said he'd visit this week. My daughter promised to come for my birthday. My best friend swore we'd stay in touch. All the dinners you missed, all the phone calls you didn't make, all the I love yous you didn't say. Those missed moments don't just disappear. They accumulate. They become the architecture of your regret. I had a roommate 3 years ago named Helen. 87 years old when she arrived, former CEO of a regional company. Brilliant woman. Sharp as a knife even at 87. She had 2 sons, both executives like she was. Both very busy like she had been. She understood, she said. She'd been that busy once. She'd prioritized work over everything too. That's what successful people do, right? Wrong, because here's what Helen realized too late. She'd modeled a life of work first to her sons, and they learned the lesson perfectly. Just like she'd been too busy for her own mother, they were too busy for her. Perfect replication. She died on a Tuesday morning. Neither son made it in time. They were both in meetings. Someday you'll be exactly where I am. That's not a threat. It's statistics. Most of you will live long enough to need care.